Such a wonderful adventure discovering music like this after realizing how much I liked it, and to be able to then, go to London and go to gigs and then meet the people making it. It's been a fantastic journey through the likes of 1968, Oak, and now you guys, Wychhound, and a pleasure to that you've been able to join me here live in the studio.
Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah, cheers.
It's a pleasure. So Neil and Miles from Wychhound, been playing your music for over the past few weeks, and then seeing you live in London, and that wonderful event that you guys put on at the Big Red, and then have been involved in the other bands. So this was looking forward to having a conversation with you guys and finding a bit more about you and how this came about, basically.
Well, where do I start?
What kind of got you into music in the first place?
Well, I think early stages was my dad getting me into bands like Sabbath and Zeppelin and the Beatles, and Neil Young's obviously one of a big hero for me. Yeah, lots and lots of different influences, but as far as from the stoner scene goes, I guess like most of us, it's Caius is the main thing, like Electric Wizard, lots of bands, but instrumental bands is like Mogwai. They're like a massive thing for me now, and I think now we're doing the instrumental side of things. It's allowing that side of my influence to come out a little bit more in the music, and not just mine. Rob's massively into Mogwai as well. And Russian Circles, like a lot of the post-rocky stuff. If This Will Destroy You, which obviously I think when we first started doing this, I don't think any of us in our heads was planning to be an instrumental band. When we parted ways with our singer, Jimmy, we was always kind of, essentially this was always written, music was always written as a set, not for an EP. It was written as a set to do some gigs that we already had booked. And none of us in our heads that was where we was going to go. We was always going to find another singer. But the more gigs we'd done and the feedback we got from friends and other bands we played with, started to get some good feedback, and was like, you know what? Maybe this is what we need to do.
Something that came from it. And as we said earlier, is that there's something different that you can bring to it by not setting out to be an instrumental band from the start.
Exactly.
So something kind of different in the instrumental music you're creating, because it came from a different perspective, and now you just have to learn to, carry the music without that, focal point.
Well, and I think as well, exactly what you said, we are still learning. None of us, this is kind of still new for us. And we've only really just decided that this is the route we're going to take. So we've still got a lot of growing to do, and we've still got a lot of time to find ourselves. And I think it's only just now we're actually starting to find our sound. And all be in it together, that, right, this is where we're going to go. And kind of run with it now.
It's a very exciting time, because I think I first saw you guys down in Deptford, and just at that point where it was kind of happening, because I remember the first song I played of yours on the radio was from your first Wychhound EP, and that was Hourglass, and but that was also a good example of how you build up into something, the kind of the arrangement you have, because you had the intro which kind of ebbed in a little bit and it came back, and then bang, it's very powerful, and then it's quite a combination with his voice as well. Come out of that.
I would go along with what Neil's saying, exactly, that the idea of it started off as a set, really. What we put together to play shows. We had shows booked. We parted ways with Jimmy, and we basically kind of had all these ideas. We had a lot of stuff that we were working on in terms of songs for vocals. So we had a lot of gaps in it. There was a lot of kind of unfinished things at that point, and it was like we got these shows, and it was like just kind of the idea of trying to arrange something, to put something together, piecing together all those parts from the other songs that really, at the end of the day, they weren't going to get finished when they're written for vocals. Because you're still thinking, when you start writing a song, or you start writing a song together, you've got your idea of where you want to take it and what you want to do, and that's now changed. So it was, piecing together. There's a lot of good stuff individually there. I was like, you know what, we can get a set out of this. Let's put together a set, do a show with it. And that was really, we're still sort of in that mindset, because we've done that. And then it's kind of connected somehow with people with that. And also kind of, bounce back onto us, where we're looking and thinking, wow, okay, we've maybe found something that's our way to go and it's kind of a blessing in disguise in a strange sort of way.
Yeah, and often in life, things that end up working for you aren't the things you planned.
Yeah.
But it's good to recognize it and then pursue it, because, you know, with anything in life that you want to pursue, or if, you know, if, say, for example, work-wise, you're not quite sure what something that you're building towards or something like you'd like to pursue. But when you kind of catch the essence of it, then it kind of is exciting, and then you got to work out how to do it, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, having no rules is quite cool.
Yeah.
Because it ended up being no rules, because you now, it wasn't like we were thinking, well, you know, I suppose if you look at instrumental and you think, well, if you do something instrumental and that's in your mind,
Yeah.
then you think, well, you know, there's a way to go about that. For
Yeah.
us, it was just, how can we piece this together? And then the more we saw it as just one journey, one kind of piece of music almost, the whole 25 minutes worth, it was almost just freeing to just put it together and see how it came out.
Yeah. And that's a good way to describe your music and your set when you play live. And my friend Kay, who came to one of the gigs at the Big Red, she said that's like, when you start, it is like you're a ship that you take people somewhere. You kind of, it rises up and kind of goes, and it's like the whole set is a journey. And the way that the songs are weaved together is like that, which is really nice.
Kind of like it sounds a bit weird, but like a DJ set or something,
yeah.
You know, where it's kind of continuous.
Yeah.
And it's kind of on journey, as you say, yeah.
Yeah. How long have you been together? What's kind of the origins of you guys kind of connecting?
Rob, Sid and Miles have been playing together for 15 years, I guess, on and off with different bands. I've joined about 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
I was a guitarist, well, kind of a guitarist. And then I met Rob, and the bass player they had at the time left. So I think with all bass players, how you join a band is, all right, I'll play bass for you. And I kind of took it from there. I'm quite enjoying it now. I don't think I did at first. I think it was just being part of a band and writing music.
Yeah.
That was my way in.
Right.
But I think now, as I'm growing as a bass player and writing more stuff of my own and bringing to the band, it's starting to make me feel more like a bass player now.
Yeah.
And looking at writing as a bass player would rather than as a guitarist would.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's good.
And that's a nice long time to be together, because then there's other connections, not just, well, there's such familiarity. So you can tell when you're on stage, because it's just so comfortable, and you kind of know where each other is at very easily. And so, you know, if there's any kind of errors or glitches, it's almost like you kind of can let them flow and kind of cover them for each other.
Yeah, well, I think that in the early stages, that's very important for me, because it was the first band I'd done, and playing with my friends made it a lot more comfortable and a lot more easier to be on stage, because you could look to the right and be like, Rob, what's this bit? And it gives you that confidence.
Yeah.
And especially with me and Sid now, I think a lot is, I don't think I realise I'm doing it a lot of the time, but I do turn my back to the crowd.
Yeah.
It's not because I don't want to face the crowd, but me and Sid have that connection where it's nice to just stand there and jam.
Yeah.
And me and Rob and Sid do that while Miles does a lead.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what we're about, is getting lost in our music as well when we're playing.
Yeah.
And then hopefully that gives a feeling to the crowd that it's all right, you can get lost as well.
Yeah, and that's,
you know,
because it didn't occur to me, like when you explain that when you're on stage, maybe you're all looking at each other and stuff, but that's part of it. It is that. Yeah. And, you know, it doesn't feel like you're excluding everybody. It's actually, like I said, you're taking everybody on the journey. So, to fly it, you have to, it doesn't matter what way you're facing. The music's there, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think a couple of things as well is that none of us talk during the gig. And at first it started off with...
Yeah, I hadn't noticed that. Yeah.
It started off as I'm not saying anything. And then Miles, I'm not talking. And it kind of went around.
Yeah.
And I think the first few gigs I kind of said, hi, and we're Wychhound.
Yeah.
But I think as it's gone along, I think the reaction you get from the crowd is that they're on this journey. Yeah. And it's almost like we don't really want to talk.
Yeah, we break the spell a bit.
Yeah, and it's going to take people off of... It's not as if, like, a singer is going to introduce each song, chat to the crowd, get the crowd into it. Yeah. Like, for instance, Andy from Oak. He's the front man. Yeah. If you're in a band, that's the front man you want. Yeah. But for us, it's more like you don't want to hear us talk.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need it. You don't need us to
Yeah.
introduce a song, or like Miles said, it is kind of like a DJ set.
Yeah.
So it is like, just leave, you lot just enjoy and come on this journey with us, and that's kind of why that gives us our vibe on stage as well.
Yeah, like if there's no singer, then there's no point having talking bits. So there was when I saw it the first time, the Big Red, you had said that nice thing at the start saying, just close your eyes and come with us, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we want everyone to do.
You say that, Neil? That's cool.
Yeah, I think I said it once, and then that was enough.
Well, to give another example then, because I love how the Earth Orbiter EP is sequenced like the set. So you hear the EP from start to finish, which is wonderful in this day of Spotify and everything, where people just play one track or something. To actually have the songs in a sequence that's like the set is actually really nice, and it all fits together nicely, which you don't quite get obviously on the show. I've been playing one song at a time, but that's just something that came to mind, because that was obviously intentional, the way you recorded it.
Sorry, what was the last thing you said?
About the way it was recorded as the set, from the start to finish.
Yeah, I mean, we what the first thing about it, I guess, because we did it live, which was kind of interesting. So it was almost doing our set.
Yeah.
And that's what we had. We had a set. And I thought, what's wrong with, putting something out as it is, as a set, as live, just putting it out like that, like the journey, the whole thing. I think even with titles for the tracks individually, we had kind of working titles. I mean, Neil will tell you a little bit about that and the titles now and everything. It's just, we kind of had these working titles of different tracks, but we again, it was tracks we'd approached with a vocalist, and they were individual when we were thinking about vocals. Now they're part of this entire set, and it was becoming a different thing. So we just recorded it as the set and put it out as an EP like that. Yeah.
That's a wonderful idea. And I like what you mentioned about the song titles as well, which we'll get onto in a second, because I just want to play this, the next song I want to play from the EP, Comet Shoemaker Levy 9, SL9. And I love, because it's got that kind of space rock influence, and touches on a bit of what Yuri Gagarin does, like we talked a little bit about one earlier on with Supercluster, and that one was Comet Shoemaker Levy 9, SL-9. I was talking about the song titles, but then also the creation of the songs, because that has to be one of my favorites. And Miles was talking about the kind of the waltzy element to it, and what you kind of added to it, what the ideas around it was.
Yeah, well, Neil and Rob had a little something going with part of the track before. It was very much pieced together like a lot of our stuff is. We kind of feed off each other. We write a lot of stuff, and often arrange a lot of stuff in the moment, in the practice room, almost like a jam. So we very much feed off each other, and I just kind of, the picking I kind of put over the original things was kind of like the sound of the 3/4, the kind of like little music box type sound. I don't know, I'm not describing it very well, but it just kind of worked, and for some reason that's people have enjoyed that track a lot, I think, out of it. Well, that's the feedback I'm getting. They seem to really pick up on that track.
Yeah, it's a nice blend. Like Neil mentioned the post-rock vibe about it, because you have the heaviness, you have the riff, but also the lovely little solo going over it as well. And kind of it's like multi-layered.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the stuff we was writing before this was very riff, stoner based. And I think after we parted ways with Jimmy, I think this was one of the first songs that we wrote that we didn't already have.
Right.
And Rob was messing around. Rob was getting into his pedals a lot more, and his sound effects, probably because he was miserable because Jimmy left, or things weren't working out, so he locks himself in his room and he buys himself lots and lots of pedals. So it kind of all
consequences.
Yeah, and it kind of all came from that. And I think, like I said to you before, I think not having a vocalist is allowing, I guess for me and Rob more, because we like a bit more like the Mogwai stuff, what I mentioned to you before, the more post-rocky stuff. So not having a singer is kind of allowing us to push that influence into the music a little bit more.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how this one come about.
Okay.
But then again, it's that beautiful picking thing that's over the top of mine and Rob's heavy riff.
Yeah.
Is the thing that makes it that kind of
Well, it's all it's all together. You have the foundation, and then you have the bit over it. That's why the blend of all the little sounds together is what makes it. And I was going to ask you, basically, with all your songs, what's been the creation process and the writing process? Do you write little bits and bring them together, or how does it? What's the process basically?
Well, most of the time, it comes from basically we've got like a little recorder we use at practice.
Yeah.
And there's always a jam guaranteed at the beginning of practice, and then we'll do the set, and there will always be little jams going on through practice. So this recorder's going constantly.
Yeah.
So we've got a little library that builds up in Dropbox, and then Miles might come in with a riff, and then we'll all jump on it, and then it will start going, and a song will be written in the room quite organically as a jam. But then when you get stuck, you'll be like, what can we do next?
Yeah.
And then one of us will say, oh, what about that thing we done last month? Or do we do that thing that last practice? And then we'll go, oh yeah, that works.
Yeah.
And then you bring that in. So it's kind of based around jams in practice and going through this little library that we have of riffs that build up.
Yeah.
And just picking little bits and pieces and like putting them together, which is pretty much how that set was done.
Yeah.
Because it was all stuff we already had recorded.
Right.
And we kind of just pieced it all together and put bits together which sounded good.
Yeah.
Which is kind of how it goes, really.
I mean, we never have a problem with ideas. We've always got ideas, lots and lots of riffs or different segments and stuff that we come up with. So if anything, sometimes the problem has been throwing so many ideas down.
Right.
And then we get kind of, we'll kind of just go, we daydream about it a little bit. We go too far into all the different ideas we're doing, and that's great because you've got lots of ideas. So I'd rather have it that way than not know what to write.
Trying to be.
It's the arrangement.
Yeah.
It's the arrangement, and that's what we're learning to do a lot more, especially with being an instrumental band now as well.
And I'd say you're already very good at it because I think arrangement is a big part of how your sound is comes across.
Yeah, we've got to be really careful, I think, and really clever with how we arrange things now, because without vocals, with a vocalist, you pretty much know what your arrangement's going to be. You have chorus, verse, hooks, middles, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think with us, it has got to be arranged a little bit more clever, because you've got to take the crowd on a journey.
Yeah.
Without someone telling them kind of where to go with it.
Yeah.
Which is obviously a difficult thing. It's like a blessing and a curse to have the freedom of being able to write like that.
Yeah.
But then, the arrangement and finishing stuff is the hardest thing.
I wonder if that is part of what the attraction is, why people kind of gravitate towards it a little bit, because people are involved with it. People are part of that process because they're not being told what to do, or as you say, from a singer. But so they're kind of part of them going along with it is the process of enjoying it, which is kind of nice.
That's a lovely way to look at it. I feel if people get that from our music, then that's just honestly where we're at. It's a little bit, we're a little bit unsure of where we were going. We've got some confidence in what we've done, and we know there's some good ideas in there. But it was very much like, okay, so we've arranged the 25 minutes out of a lot of different songs, a lot of different pieces, and once we saw how it went down, I think it was just a nice reinforcement to know, because we're not exactly sure where we're going with it. So perhaps they're with us on that, as you're saying, Graham. They're sort of just following and seeing where it pans out. Maybe the set sounds like that and the EP sounds like that. So, because that's the truth, that's where it is, and we're just sort of finding our feet with it.
Yeah, and it's interesting that, as you say, with the post-rock side of it, there already has been a genre that's instrumental in that respect, a big part of it, but also now from the stoner doom side of things, there seems to be some bands that are also instrumental now as well. So there's some of the other bands I've been playing over the previous weeks, such as Cloud. They're also instrumental. So it's almost like you're part of this wave that's sort of unfolding a little bit, which is quite nice.
Yeah, well,
it's quite an exciting time.
Yeah, one of the first bands I listened to was Earthless.
Yeah.
Their early albums, there wasn't any vocals on it.
Right.
Or very little.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what got me into it more. But because it's a lot of lead.
Yeah.
And I think as well, like Neil Young's a massive part of me on the jammy side of things, because I've been lucky enough to see him a couple of times live.
Yeah.
And you watch some of the old concerts he's done, and that is pretty much what he does. He just gets lost.
Yeah.
All the band just get lost, and they can go off for 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, one of my favorite songs of his with Crazy Horse is on Ragged Glory. Country Home.
Yeah.
And then he goes off in these long bits, really, basically.
Yeah, like Down by the River.
Yeah.
And I think it was my dad that got me into him.
Yeah.
He kind of told me off about something I was listening to in my room and said, listen to that if you want to listen to some proper music.
Yeah.
And gave me After the Gold Rush.
Right.
And I listened to Southern Man and it just blew me away.
Right.
And for what he does, instrumentally is a massive part when he, obviously he's not an instrumental, he's very vocal based, but like if you see what he does live, like Down by the River, when he plays that, it's just a massive jam.
Right.
And it's unbelievable. And that's kind of a lot of an influence of what I get and what I'd like to do.
Yeah, that's a nice influence. It's like a different style as well. Like there's doesn't have to be kind of heavy or the same genre. And that's what we were talking about earlier, is that each member can have a background of enjoying different types of music, and then when you come together, what you create together is kind of unique from it.
Yeah,
from Miles, what you're saying about all the music that you listen to, and you can just often the same thing where we spend hours going through YouTube and everything, and then you can't specifically put your finger on what you picked up from it, but it just all got integrated really well.
Yeah, I think as far as a band, I think all the bands we love and everyone, I'm sure they all, they don't listen to necessarily just the genre they're playing. I think a lot of the bands that we like and the people that we're into in their songwriting, they perhaps have quite a lot of different influences when they come together, and how it all pans out is kind of the magic of it, how it all comes together. And we'd like to, as far as jamming and putting things together on the spot as well, then it's sort of perhaps a little bit less premeditated. It's a little bit, what comes out at the time, you just kind of feel it more than planning it, which is really cool.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, on that note, shall we play one of the kind of songs that influenced you a little bit when we were talking about coming on the show? I suggest you came up with some of the songs that, like we're talking about, that were some of your influences.
Yeah, cool, yeah.
Perhaps we mentioned them a few times. Mogwai, a band that I played quite often. I think I knew about them in terms of them as a band for many years, but it was only when they were part of that Miami Vice soundtrack that I really kind of enjoyed their music and what they did, and it's very suitable actually, and instrumental music is very suitable for a soundtrack, and which is something that maybe you could bear in mind.
Yeah.
So it's like some the little elements that they added to that film really made it, and so and really get the idea of, again, with the arrangement and the background that they have in instrumental post-rock music.
Yeah, well they're the masters. Yeah. Really, and I think it's a track at the beginning of Young Team album. There's a girl. She does a little speech at the beginning, and she says it's a music that puts you in a trance-like state. Yeah. And that's kind of really hits home. It's like that's kind of what we want to do. Yeah. And they're just the masters at it, and they're great. Yeah, well, let's hear an example then from the Hawk is Howling album of 10 years ago. Here's Bad Cat. Fantastic. Another example of the recent sort of instrumental stoner rock that's been around, and another shout out to the YouTube channel Stoned Meadow of Doom, where I was able to discover those guys. 6 Months of Sun from Geneva, Switzerland. Their new album just come out, Below the Eternal Sky, a song called Mud Horse Rider. And before that, we're talking to Neil and Miles from Wychhound about Mogwai, a big influence in the post-rock genre of that kind of the heaviness of the guitar, but the usual structure, because of not having a singer, it gives you all that kind of area to play with, and so they're so influential and a big part of that scene. And we'll be talking to them in a few moments about that. But in the meantime, leading us up to the halfway point of the show, another band from the wonderful stoner scene in London. Also great to see them live. Also put on at the events at the Big Red in London that Wychhound put on, the Doomsday events. And it's great to see these guys live. And they've also had a new EP this year called Free the Witch. And this is a title track. Space and hopefully some creation coming out of it as well. Another song from the Earth Orbiter EP, if I can say it properly. Matter, Antimatter, Annihilation by Wychhound, here on Musical Meanderings on Phoenix FM. And I have the pleasure of being joined in the studio, continuing to speak to Miles and Neil from Wychhound, just finding a bit more about them, how things came about. And it's been a wonderful conversation so far, and good to hear another one of the songs. And enjoying it. Yeah, well, I said to you earlier, that song, I think we wrote that song in a practice.
Yeah.
Rob had the middle part of it for a while. We was getting really stuck, didn't really know where to go with it, so we went outside, had a cigarette, came in, and Miles was playing the beginning bit, and we was kind of like, wow, okay, so just do that bit, then put Rob's bit in, and then we'll just end on Miles, and it kind of just happened.
Sometimes
it's quite easy.
You do need to go and have a cigarette just for a second, because you get so many things thrown at the wall, and you're waiting to see if something sticks, and sometimes you're just taking a minute away from it because you get so involved in what you're trying to put together. Or sometimes you need to listen back to what you did at the beginning when you've been going down the rabbit hole with it. You want to come back and just find a reference point. Yeah,
because you can be stuck in that place of not seeing the wood from the trees, and sometimes when you receive some bad news or there's been a stressful situation, just going for a walk, and coming back, you digested it, and then you can see it in a different light.
And I think, we're not in the rehearsal room for that long. We're in there for 4 hours.
Yeah.
But
you need to kind of
the amount of time you play is probably 2.5.
Yeah.
But when you're playing something for that long, you might go in that room thinking it's amazing.
Yeah.
But by the end of it, because you're constantly playing it and trying to work things out, you're hearing it in a completely different way.
Yeah.
So you do kind of need to have that time out, bit quiet, fresh cigarette, beer, little chat about something else to clear your head, because that's all you're hearing for a long time, and you do look at things differently till you take a step. And that's why it's good that we record the rehearsals. So as long as you get everything down that you want to get down, couple of days, clear your head, and then you come back and you have a listen, then you can start thinking, right, that bit works, that bit doesn't work. Let's take that riff that we done a while ago, let's put that one in, and it kind of goes together like a jigsaw puzzle. Yeah,
great. And that's a good example as well to help other bands as well. But just little bits of like this, you talk to bands all the time, and because the next thing I wanted to touch on is the scene in London.
Yeah.
And so what you just said there is the kind of would be helpful for bands starting out, but you have such a wonderful camaraderie in the scene, and you all watch each other and kind of lift each other up. It's almost like a partnership in a marriage kind of thing, where with the right partner, you're helping each other push forward. And in this whole scene in London, everyone's there supporting each other. You all watch each other, and for example, the Doomsday event you put on, which we want to talk about, once a month at the Big Red in Holloway Road, is that you support each other by putting the bands on that you like seeing.
Well, that come about. We was drinking at the Big Red for a while, and then Ben down there started doing some live gigs, and we played a couple of gigs with Jimmy and without Jimmy, and Ben really liked us and kind of approached me and said, how about putting a Stoner Doom night on?
Yeah.
Which I thought was amazing. And it just gives me, all of us, it just gives us an opportunity to get bands down there that we like.
Yeah.
Get bands down there that are just starting out, give them something, give them a stage to play on.
Yeah.
The sound's really good down there, the stage is really good.
It's great, yeah.
It's free entry.
Yeah.
There's always a crowd in there anyway.
It's a Saturday night as well.
Yeah, there's always a crowd in there.
Yeah.
And the last few I've done, since January, they've all been really busy.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, because we're getting good bands down there that we know is starting to bring a crowd.
Yeah.
People that don't come down there to see bands, they're seeing bands, and the bands are great. And it's given us contacts with people. So Ritual King's one to touch on.
Yeah.
Band from Manchester, they're amazing. I got them down to do a gig for us, and they got us up into Manchester to play.
Yeah.
1968 have come down. I've got Barbarian Hermit coming down in June. 23rd of June, they're playing with Green Lung and a band called The Miser. So it's a good platform for us to obviously do gigs, but to give other bands opportunities and help other bands as well, and to pay other bands back, kind of like I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine.
Of course.
So and we're lucky to finally start to get our foot in this door with some great bands. I think Mars wants to have a little get on this one.
I would just say generally, backing up what Neil's saying, the whole, just getting our foot in the door in a scene that's obviously already there, and it's the support that you get from the other bands. It sounds a bit cliché, with that kind of stuff, but there is genuine, everyone within their own band, there's a struggle to get to that point. There's a bit of a brotherhood, and you sort of enter into a scene where you're with your peers, you're with people who are respecting what you're doing, and they're being honest with that, and that's a massive boost for each other. And you're sharing conversation with people who've also struggled to get to that point. There's not a huge amount of money in it or anything at the beginning. A lot of it's off their own back. I think the good thing with the Doomsday as well, it's open quite late, and you get to socialise afterwards with some of these bands, because half the time when you go and do a gig, you've got the van outside, you've got, in between songs, you've got to quickly pack up, and then half the time everyone's got a job, they've got to get away quickly. Yeah. And, there's a lot of actual sort of work involved in it. And then if it's, it's open, you can sit and chat about music. And to find out when we put an EP that, as you've seen, we're not entirely sure what we were doing with it, and we kind of put it out, and then to have really good feedback from it, from people who, they don't need to, bullshit about it or tell you anything they don't really believe about music.
And I think that's part of you watching each other as well. It's almost like there's this wonderful, as you said, brotherhood, supportive element to edging each other on and keeping the standard so high. I think Andy said this as well, is that the standard in the scene is so high, and I think every time I've seen you guys play, before you guys come on, Rob was always like, "Oh, I can't believe that we've got to follow those guys." It's like, and it's wonderful in that respect. It doesn't feel like a competition. It feels like you're pushing yourself forward. It's almost like you're having to perform at your best, and that brings out the best in the performance and in the song creation as well, and it's keeping the standard so high. And I guess another big shout out to Trevor's Head, who do a similar night definitely. Down in the Bird's Nest in Deptford. They do a similar thing as well, but supporting the bands and a nice platform as well in a different part of the month.
Yeah, there's lots of good bands, and it's what you said. There's obviously going to be a small competition between each other because they're all really good bands. Like Trevor's Head, Oak, Mountains, Green Lung. There's lots of these bands, but they're all really, really good. And it's all quite recent. They've all put some new albums out and some new EPs, which they all sound great, but to get to come and see them live is a different story. Like when you see Oak live, when you see Trevor's Head live, Green Lung, when you see these 1968, when you see these bands live, they're the nuts. And they're just really, really good bands, and they've honed their craft, and it's just a pleasure to play with them.
And you guys as well. I mean, what I noticed actually, this last event, Doomsday event at the Big Red, I'm sure a lot of the people that were there, as you say, it's a busy pub anyway on a Saturday night, but you guys were playing Oak in 1968, and I remember when all you guys, especially 1968 or Oak when they played before, because you guys are there, most months anyway, and I think a lot of people are coming back that were there, guys that went to the pub. And they were so blown away by you guys that they think, they know that they came back just to see that the bands as well.
Yeah, well, they've got one 23rd of June. There's one in July. In August, it's not the best situation, but our friend's not very well. I won't say too much, but I'm doing a fundraiser. And it's an all-day festival, and we've got some great bands playing. A band called Knob. If you haven't heard them, you must check them out. They're amazing. Tusker are coming down, which we played with them a while ago. Played them a couple of times, but they blew me away. Two-piece, they're an amazing band. But it's kind of that thing where it's like, it's a bit of a melting pot. And you can kind of there's so many bands that we're making contact with now. Morag Tong, there's lots of bands. Purple Kong are another great band as well. So it's kind of easy for me to book these bands because they're going to guarantee you they're going to play a great show. They're not going to be idiots. They're not going to be arseholes and arrogant, and they're just great people and great bands, and so you put them on, they're going to play a great show and everyone's going to have a great time.
Wonderful.
Which is what you want to do, and supporting the scene more
exactly.
than
I'll put these links to these events on the show page of tonight's show on the Phoenix FM website, and also the events on for the Doomsday, but also these examples like there's another all dayer that Andy's putting on from Oak.
We're playing that one as well. We're really looking forward to that.
In July, so the date of that as well, because again I went last year, and that's I think one of the next big steps of meeting all meeting people in the scene, and as you say, they're all there milling around. You get to meet them, and and all the merchandise as well. I always enjoyed Jimmy from 1968, how he's a big fan of supporting, making sure everyone supports the other bands by buying the T-shirts and stuff. All the other bands, artists.
It's definitely a nice scene, and everyone's got each other's back.
You feel that.
Very supportive,
Yeah, and it's what you said. You can just have a beer.
Yeah.
There's not many gigs you can go to, and you see a band and you really like them.
Yeah.
And then you can just come over and say, "You all right?" and then have a beer.
Yeah.
It's happened lots of times. There's been like the odd people have come over and said they really enjoy it, and then you end up standing there having a beer with them all night and chatting about music.
Yeah.
And you chat with all the other bands as well.
Yeah.
And it's just such a nice scene to be part of.
Yeah. Yeah. To really feel that, the kind of the camaraderie, the comfort, and as you say, talking about all sorts of music as well, and you can share ideas and learn about bands as well. And it's from some of these conversations that I've discovered music of all sorts. And actually, that leads me on to perhaps another song that we can share of some of the inspirations or songs that you were talking about perhaps playing. And I think Miles, this is one of your suggestions, a band called Hermano.
Yeah, it's just I guess it's not so much to do with what we're doing now. I mean, I just took the question of where you were sort of talking about influences. It actually goes way back really to sort of, as Neil said before, Rob and I and Sid have been in different bands under, sometimes we've come together and we've done different things. But when I met Rob and started doing music with him initially, it was just a track that he played me. I mean, I'd been into a bit of Caius and different things before, but I don't know, it's just the riff and the groove, and it's just straightforward, stripped down. And I remember bringing my stereo down to the garage where we used to rehearse and just, because I couldn't play the music loud at home. So it's like, right, it kind of began and ended each jam we used to have when we were writing. I just kind of put my speakers up and blasted it. And did Rob's dad's head in from the garage that we used to rehearse in. Yeah, so that's really the story behind that one. That's all.
Fantastic. And I love the description of groove as well. I essentially use that a lot when I play stoner songs, and it has the one where you kind of just really
it's just kind of
it.
stripped down. It's just something where we all definitely, regardless of all the influences, it's something we're all into. The riffs and grooves,
It's all about the groove.
Yeah.
And let's check this one out then. Hermano is a song called Senor Moreno's Plan from Only a Suggestion album of 2002.
Across Brentwood and Billericay, this is Phoenix FM.
Wonderful. This is Musical Meanderings on Phoenix FM, and continuing to enjoy the company of Neil and Miles from Wychhound, who came up from London to join us here live in the studio, and been playing some of their music and just enjoying the conversation, and also some of the suggestions of songs that have influenced them throughout the years. And that was one Miles suggested, Hermano and Senor Moreno's Plan, and I see, or I can hear exactly what you mean, the kind of groove and element to it, a bit of the Caius influence of this vocal as well.
Yeah, it's just kind of how, if I think in terms of having a singer, I always kind of thought like that nice phrasing and they hit it, and then there's a little bit of a gap for a while, let the music breathe. I also kind of like quite a lot of southern type rock and different things from the past, and that kind of phrasing and the where it's almost late, but it's not late. It's kind of weird, but there's a certain nuance to it. It's really cool. So it was just for me when I was thinking of stories of where we came from. It's like it's not so much relating to where we're at now. We talked a lot about that. It was just hooking up first, writing stuff with Rob like years ago, and that track getting to blast it, and it kind of influenced a lot of riffage. We did a lot more stuff riff based.
Oh, great. And then continuing to discover new stoner bands now, and we're talking about the Stone Meadow of Doom and the Mr. of Doom YouTube channels, and the Where Post Rock Dwells, and the World Has Post Rock YouTube channels that I discovered music on that front as well. And so we're talking about some of the bands we've recently discovered, like 6 Months of Sun I played earlier. Yeah. And Neil, and you came across a band not too long ago.
Well, I've known them for quite a while now, but I discovered them through Stone Meadow of Doom. Yeah. All them witches, they're just pretty much amazing.
Yeah. Continuing the theme of the evening as well.
They're just one of them bands. I think I discovered them, and they just kind of blew me away. And I listened to the albums they had out at the time, got to see them live, which is where they're best.
Right.
It's just kind of what they do it's a mellow. It's all about bass lines, and it's very mellow. It's just the way they put their songs together are amazing. It's still very stoner influenced, very bluesy, but just as a live band, they're absolutely amazing.
Are they from the UK?
They're from America.
Oh, right, okay, but they came over and toured.
Yeah, they've done a few gigs over here now.
Okay.
They're just starting to blow up a bit more now, doing a few bigger gigs. But they're amazing. Yeah. Such a great band, and I highly recommend people to listen to them.
Well, we can do that now from the 2015 album, Dying Surfer Meets His Maker. Another interesting title, a song called Talisman. Yeah, I already see what Neil was talking about there. All Them Witches, Talisman. And it almost has a little bit of the post-rock element to it, where it has that kind of mellow element to it, and it sort of starts building and then builds up to the kind of crescendo, I think.
Well, it's kind of, I think that's kind of what we try and do, is that it's just building. It's building constantly.
Yeah.
And to a big crescendo at the end with a big heavy riff and the lead. I just think it's a beautiful song.
Yeah.
I just think they're such a good band. I can't push it anymore.
Yeah, really
they're just
feel the passion.
They're such a good band.
Yeah.
And another band is King Buffalo.
Yeah.
I saw them support Elder, which are obviously a great band as well. But King Buffalo have very much got the same kind of feel as All Them Witches. A bit more raw. Yeah. A bit more fuzzy. But it's definitely got that same kind of vibe, where it's got its mellow parts and it builds and it builds and it's creating an atmosphere. Yeah. And I think when All Them Witches play, you'll hear a song on the album. Some people don't like it when a band plays a song that's on an album differently. Yeah. But I love it. Yeah. And I think that's the kind of the Neil Young influence, where they'll play a song that you know, but then halfway through the song they'll just go off into this jam and then seamlessly bring the song back in, which I think's amazing. It's a very hard thing to do as well. And I think they just do it perfectly. Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah, he definitely kind of captures it as well on that song. Yeah. Yeah. And I guess we had another song as well that I think Sid wanted to share.
That's right. Yeah.
Operator Generator. Again, this is all great for me because these are all bands that I'm able to learn more about and build the picture a lot more as well. And it's from the same year actually, in 2015, an album called Polar Quest. And it'd be interesting to find out what Sid likes about this song. But a song called Arctic Quest, and it has a stoner element to it as well. Yeah, and it's really groovy. And let's check it out. Okay, I think I do know what he's talking about. And that's a fantastic groove to it, hasn't it? Yeah. The heaviness, the fuzzy guitar. That's Operator Generator and Arctic Quest. I'm definitely going to be checking that album out, Polar Quest. And as always, I'll be having the whole playlist on the Phoenix FM show page of tonight's show, and be able to listen again and have all the links to your music and all the shows coming up as well, which will be cool. Really nice. And after talking about Mogwai and some of the post-rock influences, which is great because it's kind of, there's been a few little blends actually between post-rock and sort of some of the maybe some stoner stuff. There's this band called Hemmelby Stormer from Belgium, which is a kind of a heavier kind of post-rock band. But one I came across today on the Where Post Rock Dwells website or YouTube channel is a post-rock band from Norway called Spurv. And hadn't come across them before, but they have, that instrumental vibe to it. But instead of having the kind of gentle start, they have a burst at the beginning and then go on a bit of a journey from there. So a song from the Myra album. So giving a shout out to my friend Mara as well, if she's listening, up in Blackmore, if she's around. But I'll see if I can get the song title right. Fraud Die Pet Under Stennen. Fantastic, a really beautiful song. Check it out. Wonderful to hear that today, and really gets a lot of the elements I enjoy out of post-rock music, and kind of what we're talking about a little bit on the instrumental side of what you can create when you don't have to have the structure of a singer. You can really just go, on this journey, and that started heavy and then kind of with the beautiful guitar over it, and then went somewhere else and came back again. Yeah,
you definitely. I think you do have that freedom to do these things, but you've got to be careful with how you do it. But these guys are obviously they've been doing it for a long time and they're amazing. But I think with us, like I said before, this is kind of still new to us. Yeah, and we're still learning. I don't think any of us are really know where we are with the band at the moment. I think it's kind of, we've discovered that we can do this.
But it's an exciting time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think now with the feedback we're getting, and I think especially with the new stuff we're writing, I think Miles will agree with it as well. The new stuff we're writing it's definitely going in a direction, and we've kind of finding our sound now. Yeah. And we know what we've got to do, and we know what we want to do. Yeah. and like we said before, we're just gonna run with it. And
I mean, I love the feedback that we're getting from it, and I think
everyone loves it. Every time anybody hears it.
I mean, it's nice. Obviously, we've got a bit of confidence in what you're doing to a point, but as we said before, you just kind of put it out there, and it was wait and see, because it was literally like have an idea of what we're doing with the vocalist before, but we kind of put this together and just rushed it out, and it's like, let's see what happens with it, you know?
Yeah.
When you're sort of funneling music that you write, when you've got a singer, you're kind of funneling stuff towards the front. They're going to interpret how they feel on it and add something to it, and that's more the finished product. Whereas you've got a situation now where you've just got things before, you know, you're not sending it forward to a vocalist to interpret it their way and do what they want with it and add something to it. It's just is what it is, which is really it's exciting. Yeah,
fantastic. So speaking of which, then, what's the next move? You know, you have this new material that you've created to record something else, perhaps?
Well, what we're looking at is we've got, like Miles said, we've probably got enough for another EP.
Right.
We're writing. We've got a couple of songs at the moment we're writing, but yeah, hopefully by the end of the year, we're going to try and get another EP out.
Yeah.
If we can, yeah.
And build towards the vision of a sound for an album.
Yeah, exactly. I think the plan is for us is it'll be nice to get another EP out, and then obviously aim for an album. But
well, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to put something out that's actually, you know, done in the studio before. Well, obviously we did, but it was live. So there's nothing extra done there or too much production. It's just live, and it'd be nice to go in and actually have the studio experience of laying it all down when it's not live. You know,
I was going to ask, it was
play around with it.
The things that you learnt from that process in the studio. Was it anything that you're going to take away to next time, as you say, you're going to try to do it in different parts, but
don't rush it and do it on a low budget. I think
we recorded it pretty quick. We put it down kind of in a few takes, but it was the process after of trying to get it produced, and then Sid actually finished the producing of that, and you know, it sounds pretty good. So we're glad of that, but it was more that what took a bit of time to finish it off, because we just basically played our set. I
think as well, because of the way we're going with it now, what Miles said, it was the EP was written as a set. It wasn't meant to go. It wasn't really meant to do anything. It was just purely to do these shows.
Yeah.
So it wasn't actually written to be an EP.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why we was like, right. A lot of people have said, we love what you're doing live. Like, we want to hear it. Where can we hear it?
Yeah.
So that was in our heads. We was like, well, let's just record it live.
Yeah.
And try and portray ourselves live as much as we can in the EP.
Yeah.
But I think now with where we're going and what we're doing, it's getting a bit more involved. So it'll be nice to actually, with the next EP, is to go into the studio and actually do a proper studio album and be able to layer stuff and put different things on it and try and do it in a different way with what we're doing now, because we're kind of, right, this is what we've got to do now.
Yeah.
We can take our time and get out what we want to do.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Yes, it's an exciting time for sure. So, and we've got to this point of the show as well where, we can maybe finish up, actually. And so it's been wonderful that you guys were able to join me here in the studio and talk about your journey to this point and this exciting time. And just was wonderful to meet you. And after enjoying your music as well and seeing you guys play live, to have you down here to talk about it. It's wonderful. I've been really enjoying Earth Orbiter and looking forward to finding out how it's going to unfold.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you having us down here, and we can get into talk about what we're doing. And it's been great. It's been fun.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, joining us.
It's our first interview, so we were a bit nervous, and it's been a great experience. Cheers for having us down.
It's a pleasure. Yeah, I was hoping that it would go well, and I knew it would, and so it's been a great conversation. I always want to speak to you guys, so. I'm looking forward to hearing how it's going to unfold. So, hopefully everyone enjoyed listening to it as much as we enjoyed talking about it here on Musical Meanderings on Phoenix FM. And just to finish off tonight with another song from your EP, the first song, in fact, into the second hour, where I'll queue up a couple of songs as we leave. And first of all, with Yuri Gagarin, after talking about them a couple of times, as well as with some of the influences and some other, perhaps space rock as well.
Yeah, cool.
So we'll listen to Zag Cosmosum after into the next hour. But just to finish off, speaking to Wychhound, So why not hear Aurora, the first track from the Earth Orbiter EP, which is out now, and you'll be able to buy it from all the usual outlets. And I'll share the link, the Bandcamp link at least, on the Phoenix FM website.
Cool.
Phoenix FM website.
Cool.
Phoenix FM website.